All right. So
take the time that you need. If you need more, take more. Don't worry. The important is that the classes is completed according to you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kamel.
You're welcome.
Yes. So everyone hear me? I don't know. Yes, because they are mute. So hopefully, yes. I'm Kwan. Yee Kwan Tang. Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yes,
yeah,
we can.
Okay. So let me share the screen first. Let's see what it is. How to stop share? Do I have to open the slide first? Right. So good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Yee Kwan Tang. You can just call me Kwan. I am at the Adam Smith Business School in University of Glasgow. In case you don't know where it is in Scotland, the UK. And I'm very happy to deliver a lecture today. And then I believe you all have a very busy and exciting week already. So because I'm from the business school, so you will see that there will be a kind of change of a discipline, because obviously I don't have a lot of technical knowledge about engineering, but I have worked in the engineering industry for some time, and then even now I am working on some of these research projects, collaborating with engineers, trying to bring some a business and management perspective, particularly about entrepreneurship, mindset and consideration into those projects. So today what I'm going to focus on is also on that, maybe to cover some of the blind spots, because when you're working really intensively on some of your interesting product idea, maybe sometimes you will forget that you have to consider maybe the market and also the business side as well. And so that is why the title, Beyond Winning Ideas. So let me start. Not a particularly encouraging message to start with, but all of us are very good at, I believe all of you too, to generate ideas, because I think it is a human nature to generate, a lot of ideas. And so every day or every year, there will be thousands of great technological ideas, but most never light up, like in this picture. Even those those ideas looks very complete, or even have been translated into a product. And many of them just don't realize and being realized, or even if they are being realized and they couldn't sustain, so they may just fade away in a second. So you don't even know that they exist. So why is it the case? I don't know, maybe any of you can think of an example, even outside the medical device and the scope. Any a product or technological idea you think is really good, but then it's never come into existence or product. Anyone can give me any idea? Yeah. And why will that be? And what do you think the why? What is the reason why?
Can I
Yes,
try?
Yes, I had you. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, I think maybe because it wouldn't have been thought through properly, or the idea for it to actually be realistic of how it would work, and just thinking it through properly. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
so,
also in designing it, I think, yeah, that's basically what I was saying. I think I'm just repeating myself, but just thinking it through and how it would work properly.
Yeah, so I think that is the starting point. Maybe you haven't really thought about the idea in depth, or consider a lot of the other stuff that you should have considered right at the start, right? So that is the reason why I come in addition to the technological aspect or the functional aspect. So first of all, let me clarify, okay? I don't know, maybe in engineering or scientists per se, the idea or the concept of innovation has a different focus. But from a general business and management perspective in general, or entrepreneurship perspective in specific, innovation has everything to do with the market. That's why I highlight. So innovation can be interpreted as a process. So the innovation process, it begins with an idea, a new idea, and then it has to be concluded with a market introduction, and that is the complete process. And even if like innovation as an object, it should be interpreted as something new or newly or significantly improved. But in addition to that, there must be some market value and also benefit attached to it. So if you look at this, like you will see that if you have an idea, and then for it to become really an innovation, so this camp is called Youth Innovators Bootcamp, okay? But if for someone of you who have an idea, in order to really translate or really claim it as an innovation, it needs to go through the middle part, that is the most important part, the exploitation process. And then exploitation, here I simplified it to include two aspects. Obviously, you need to make that idea comes into existence, because idea is just a thought. So you need to maybe exploit it, for example, through invention, to make it physically exist, no matter it is really a tangible good or like a service, it needs to exist, okay? That is the invention. But because I emphasize the market side of innovation, so obviously, in addition to just making it physically exist, you need to know that this one physical existence will be able to address an opportunity. What we talk about opportunity is always attached with a market need and problem. So this need and problem needs to exist in order for you to be able to exploit and then extract some market value and also benefit from this so-called innovation. So that is like the things I will focus on, and hopefully will give you some like a news perspective into understand the concept of innovation. So a lot of the time I read the Facebook page, to me, maybe a lot of you are still in the idea generation stage or even the invention stage, but then may not have necessarily achieved the so-called innovation stage. That means really taking into consideration the market and the market value and also the problem you're going to assess. So innovation from a management and business perspective, it needs to be a very structured, deliberate, and also systematic process. And all of it, because I mentioned that and I emphasize that innovation must have like a market value attached to it. So one needs to start with an opportunity. So where are these sources of the opportunities that you need to pinpoint or you need to use to get this idea? Peter Drucker identified 7 of them, and I'm going to go through applying to the so-called maybe the medical, and because that is the focus of the bootcamp. So source of opportunity, the first 3, unexpected occurrences. Obviously the COVID-19, it has taken the world aback, okay? Always like why all of a sudden there is this pandemic? And because of COVID-19, this unexpected pandemic, there are new opportunities coming up. How you, for example, organize a lot of the products and service into delivering and this like distribution, and also like organization of all of these like business activities or like the production. So the COVID-19 is a typical example of something unexpected, and then it just stirred a lot of like the COVID-19 problems. And then like someone will come in to like identify some of the opportunities. The incongruities, so incompatibilities. For example, like the coaching for delivering vaccines and also drugs. So a lot of people may focus on how I can improve the transportation, the logistics, but maybe it has been improved and it saved a lot of money, and then now it has saved time. But then maybe the real problem or the real opportunities is really lies in the maybe the insulation right at the start. If you are able to insulate those vaccine and drug, keep the temperature stable, then you may not really need to have put so much focus on the transportation at this moment. The process needs some of this individual process from, for example, production, procurement of raw materials, and then also the distribution. Maybe there are gaps within these kind of processes, key processes. For example, the information like the provision or distribution. So how are you able to identify these gaps and then be able to address it? The next, for industrial and market changes. For example, obviously, there are a lot of market changes going on in the medic sector, including the market structural change because of the regulation issue. For example, a lot of these products need to be developed by the medical device companies, but increasingly you will see a lot of the non-medical device companies come working into this sector. Okay, so there may be a new opportunities, even including collaboration, developing new product. And then another key area that may stir up some of these opportunities is the regulatory change and also the standard change. And then also the industrial trends as well. For example, the digitalization. Okay, all of a sudden people are talking about digitalization, and a lot of these traditional ways may not be able to fit in or may not be really useful after all. So there are new opportunities for you to rethink about all of this and develop new products. The demographic changes, for example, aging and a rise of middle class, of course in Africa, you cannot miss out the increasingly huge educated young population, and many of them may become more and more affluent. So some of these new opportunities that coming up is a lot of these personal and home healthcare devices. It may not be in the past because when we thought about medical devices, we always think about going to the clinics or going to hospitals. Now increasingly, there are also a lot of sophisticated home and personal healthcare devices. And obviously these so-called wearable devices, they are not even calling them devices anymore, but some kind of a lifestyle gadgets, okay? And change in perception is another source of new opportunities. For example, the face mask. I'm from Asia, I'm from Hong Kong. So wearing face mask is not so much of a problem, or the perceptionally not so much of a problem of us. But I know that in the West, for example, there is a huge perception saying only the sick people, weak people should wear masks. Okay, but now you can see because of this COVID-19, it has changed the perception. Okay, wearing masks become important, and then not even necessary, but sometimes become maybe a fashion. So how you will be able to take the opportunity of this change in perception. And finally, of course, the new technology and new knowledge coming in, it's a tie-in with, for example, some of these industrial trends and how it can revolutionize the whole treatment, from the treatment to maybe some of these diagnostics, and then the transportation and all these supporting services as well. So these are the sources of new opportunity. I just sum it up. Of course, there are a lot of different categories about it, but these are the ways you will be able to identify, okay, how my product idea fit in. Why do I suddenly have my product idea like this? Does it fit in some of these contextual changes or contextual gaps that I will be able to know where my needs lie? Okay, so these are some of the areas. So now I also want you to think about, I don't know whether you have thought about this before. You have your product idea already, so maybe many of you are now working on really building, I don't know, the finalizing it. But where do your opportunity fall? Like, for example, among these 7 sources, where do your opportunity fall? So I'll give you maybe a minute to talk about, and hopefully 1 or 2 of the participants will be able to explain a little bit about the product idea. I don't know whether it's allowed or like, and then like maybe explain like where do they see like the opportunity in one of these, or maybe a few of these areas they can position. So anyone can like, are they allowed to talk about their product idea? I don't know, Camille. Are they allowed to do that?
Yes.
Because some of them already posted on Facebook. Yeah.
No, they are allowed to interact, of course. Yeah. They also have the opportunity to, unmute the mic and talk directly.
So any group or any students will want to share a little bit of their idea, and what do they see are the opportunities? So where is the opportunity within this like landscape? Anyone?
Is there anyone from, I see Pearl, am I right?
Yes, yes. So our group is so far trying to I create like our idea is pretty much based on a mask that changes color depending on the concentration of pathogens that are on the mask itself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so where do you see like the opportunity then? So are you satisfied? That means are you seeing that because there is a change of perception about wearing masks, so there will be opportunity for you to exploit that market? Or because like you are specifically designing it for some of these like young population, they are really now like really like to wear masks as like their fashionable item or whatsoever. So where do you think your opportunity is?
I think the opportunity is in trying, like with, as you said, with masks, how they're high in demand, and just trying to see where someone might feel that there are gaps and trying to make them more efficient in being a device which protects people, I guess. I don't know if I answered your question correctly.
Right. So for example, what I see the opportunity is because now the country actually requires, it is a law for you to wear a mask, right? So there is this like a regulation change. Previously, before the pandemic, it's like a personal choice, but now maybe a lot of countries, if you don't, for example, wear a mask, maybe in public places, even in the UK, like public transportation in England, you will be fine. So you have that opportunity there. You know that because of the regulation change, the market change. That means there may be more demand for it, right? And obviously this perception, like it is obvious, because now people may not be so, reluctant to wear a mask. previously, maybe a lot of the countries, people are really reluctant to wear a mask, but may not be now, because it has become more kind of, okay, a usual practice to protect yourself and to protect others. And so it also say that, let me say, it's also an implication that the market will increase. So you will see that, okay, there may be a bigger market and a new market for that as well. So this is like what I mean by how you will be able to fit in if you understand your source of new opportunity. That means the why. Basically, you ask why you think that a mask will have a market. Is it fitting a gap there? Is like maybe fitting in or matching a change in the overall market, okay? But what I want to emphasize is, okay, if you look at that 7 sources of new opportunities, they are basically all trying to highlight some of these needs, a problem, a gap, or like a pain in somewhere, okay? So this is like, you can see it is more like objective existence. So many people will maybe see these needs, but not many people, for example, like you, will see that it is an opportunity. You say, that, okay, maybe the market, okay, there will be more people. Because opportunity itself is like a subjective perception of what these needs are or what the problems are out there. And so even the objective existence, it may be the same. So you're in the same context, but then how one defines the opportunity may be very different. Okay, so even everyone know that, see this one problem, how different people see how this problem should be addressed may be different. So you can see, like I use a cartoon. It is like the half full, half empty idea. So different people may have like a different understanding of what opportunity are there to address this problem. So opportunity is really important for you to understand, okay? But the problem is, like I also want to emphasize, even though you have a need and a problem, okay? So you have like all these needs, does not necessarily make a viable opportunity. I looked at like a slide a few days ago delivered by on about the human-centered design, and then like the first line is talking about mismatch. And so one of the top lines about the mismatch is maybe the need in the world context. Yes, it is very important, and then a need and a problem underlying the opportunity. But then just a need existed from a business and management perspective does not necessarily make it a viable opportunity. What I mean viable is, if you go back to the idea of innovation, it needs to attach with the market value and also benefit. And in a sense, it needs to bring some profit to the company because we are business and management people, okay? And even a need exists, it has to consider a lot of things in order to make it a viable opportunity. That means an opportunity that is worth pursuing. So what are some of these like ingredients for a viable opportunities? And that are the things I want to pinpoint here. And some of the blind spots, like maybe some of you have, and then I want you to, after this lecture, start thinking about it. And one sentence I want to emphasize is, it is really not just about your device. And then I also think that that is highlighted in the lecture by Elizabeth on the human center. It is really not just about the technology. So to me here, I group into 4 aspects that you need to consider, okay? First of all, of course, it's the product. That means, like, for example, Pearl mentioned about the mask. And the other, which I keep like repeating, is the market. And then like you need to consider the resources And finally, it's the people and the team. That is like the student groups now working on different interesting product idea, okay? So this, because of the time constraint, I will focus on the product and also the market, and then maybe touch on a little bit of the resources and the people and team, but my focus will be on the product and market, because I believe if you have a better understanding or like a more in-depth analysis of those, you will be able to really pinpoint your value, and you will really be able to pinpoint what you actually could deliver, and you could frame that like to maybe attract some of this like attention. And because of that, then you can start thinking about, okay, what are some of the resources, key resources that I need to realize to create this value to the market. And also some of these people, the attributes of the people I need in my team in order to implement it. So that's why I focused on the top two, the product and the market. So let's go through it one by one. The product, okay, so 3 questions I want you to ask yourself. What is exactly your product? Okay, and what value does it create or present? And also, particularly important, how different and also sustainable is this value? Okay, because you don't, like I say, a lot of this idea or like complete product, they are being produced, go into the market, but immediately just fade away. That means it's not able to be sustained. And then it's no more different from maybe some of these other products. So here is the main question: how can you like present the value of your product and at the same time make sure that they is different and sustainable? Again, in like our mind, that means like business and management, product is not really just one thing, okay? There are different levels that you need to take into consideration. From the core value to more like the potential things that you can come up with. So what do I mean by core value then? Is the most generic benefit and value of the product. What is the most basic thing that this product can deliver? What is the basic purpose that it's meant to serve or intended to serve? So after you understand the core value, okay, what actually does this like product used for? And then you start to think about some of the basic features to allow this purpose to be fulfilled or allow the core value to be created. So that is the most basic features for it to just becoming a product and to serve its like a core value. And after that, okay, there should be, because there are so many, maybe the same products out there with the same basic features. In order to sustain and then to be different, you need to think more, right? So the so-called expected is some of these improvements on expected features, including, for example, maybe the design. Okay, someone mentioned about if you change color, immediately maybe it detects like different things, okay? And the durability, maybe even the packaging. So it is like another step of improvements to make you maybe a little bit different, to make your product a little bit different, but still focusing on that core value. And then the augmented, that is some of these new benefits that are not there yet. Okay, so you, based on this core value, you provide through this product additional benefits for the people who use it. And finally is like further extensions that allow you to differentiate with like other products more. So if you look at the idea of being different and sustainable, you cannot forever the product stay in this like a lower circle of basic thing, because everyone is doing that. So what's the point? Okay, you may not be able to do it like with lower cost. You may not be able to do it maybe better quality, so you are not able to really get the market value out of it. So the so-called like areas of differentiation is really lie on the outer circle that you need to think of like how you will be able to deliver this core value better, more, than like maybe the existing offering. Okay, so I also use face mask as an example, mainly because, like I say, I don't have any like technical knowledge, but that is the one that is to me very interesting and very, trendy at the moment. So you can have a face mask. What is the core value of a face mask? And what do you think are the core features or the most basic features that a face mask should have? Anyone can tell me? Like, for example, Pearl, who is designing a face mask. What is the core value of a face mask? What is it for anyway? For example, in this kind of incidents, COVID-19.
It's a protective barrier, like it's a materials barrier.
Yeah.
That serves to protect people from, pathogens.
Yeah, so basically just a barrier to protect you from like having your droplets coming out, okay? Or like someone who may be coughing, the droplet getting in. So what are the core features do you think the face mask should have then? That means just for this core value. That means the face mask is just a barrier for you. I have one here, okay? For you to maybe just avoid something coming in or avoid your droplets going out. So what are the core features for these, like just basic features for face mask to have?
Breathable material. Are you talking about?
Yes, that's very good. Yeah, so you need to have breathable materials, yes? So you need to have something to hold it in place, right? So for example, that's why you need to have a wire to maybe hold it at the bridge of your nose and then like earlobe, some of them like tight, okay? And that's it. That are the basic features that you need to have, okay? But like I say, everyone is producing something like this. So you possibly will not be able to differentiate yourself, okay, from this. And how are you able to get maybe a share of the market? Very little chance, right? Because so many people are already producing it. So some of these other features that you can add, for example, your group is like adding it will change color by doing what? That means like if it detects different pathologies, it will change color, right? You say.
Yes.
So now let's like have a look at all of this, right? So this is the different so-called products. I have some of this here. The top one is like a Korean one. So what is extended feature is, I have it here because I use it myself, is it is a 3D design, okay? And because it's like it is flat, so even you have the plate, it's still for some people really, really difficult to breathe. So this design is trying to make it more 3D-like. And the good thing about it, it is really close to your face. That means there is not really anything that coming out. Okay, so this is an additional one, right? So you can see you started to differentiate yourself. So this product started to differentiate yourself from maybe just a basic one. And obviously, some of these features you also mentioned about it, the material needs to be breathable, okay? So, and then because the idea of the mask nowadays is also trying to maybe to filter some of these bacteria and virus. So for example, you may start to look at some of the better materials, like this one is a Japanese one. So it specified that it is 99% filtration. Okay, it is very high standard already. And it also add a little bit of design because like, for example, this mask, if you wear it too long, you will have an ear pain. Okay, so they decided to think that, okay, how could I differentiate myself? Is they designed the ear loop and then to make it more comfortable to wear. Okay, so this is like another idea of how one mask, okay, it still serves the core value, okay, but then like it include a little bit of change and then to make it like more beneficial and add to that value. And then the other, you can see, for example, the shield one, it is a new one. It is like a kind of a new trademark and then a new material, even though it is a fabric. Okay, so, but then it will also have filtration. And the other one, for example, the O2 curve, it is, you'll be able to change the filter. So you possibly will not like have to dispose of it like every time, because these are all disposable one, the Korean one, the Japanese one, and this basic one. So this one also allows you to, so that is some of these like add features for you to maybe differentiate yourself. And the Vokma, I also have one. They basically is also a fabric, and then unlike those other like a cloth face mask, it has a high filtration because it's produced in Korea as well. It has high filtration, and it has a valve for you to breathe like more easily. Okay, and another thing about this is you will see that okay, all of these are very plain. Okay, the surgical one obviously either blue or white. And then like the Korean one normally is white and black, and then like you can, but this one have different, because it's made of fabric, so it can kind of wear like a fashion. And it has also becoming a trend. Okay, they emphasize that wearing face mask is a fashion. So a lot of even this designing company are producing face masks. So you can see based on this like a core value, that means it's just trying to cover your mouth and nose to avoid something getting in, avoid your things getting out, to try to protect yourself. But then if you just keep your mask as the basic item, obviously you possibly would not be able to get the market value out of it. And then you may just like compete with a lot of these cheap products, okay? And may not even be able to compete, and soon like you may not even have some of like enough to sustain your product, the business. So you have to think of like all these different features, but still the core value doesn't change. It just be enhanced. Okay, so but then like the value you produce for your customer or your target customer has increased. So that is like what I mean by when you are designing a product. Okay, it is, you shouldn't just think about maybe the core features. You really need to like start thinking about the different level. What are the things that I may be able to think about in order to enhance and make myself different from the others? And so that you will be able to really exploit the opportunity and return with like some profit and sustainability. So extension of the core value, right? We talk about you cannot just focus on some basic features. So when you think about how you extend that core value, you need to take into consideration both the tangible and the intangible features. Sometimes I think it is the intangible features that will make yourself more unique, including, for example, some of the services, especially in the area of medical device as well. And then like it is also this combination. For example, this one combine the comfortability with like a filtration, and then like a normal face mask with maybe some unique design as a fashionable item that make your product more unique and sustainable, because it is relatively difficult to be imitated. If you are just producing some basic features, obviously it will be copied in no time. And then everyone with that tiny resource will be able to produce them. So that means like you may not have that much advantages. Another thing that you can think of is like when you are producing something, for example, even as simple as a mask, can you actually think about just decompose it and then like develop something attached to it, or actually think about that even when I am designing a mask, I can actually derive another standalone feature as another product. For example, the material, right? If you are thinking of producing a mask then okay, you produce the basic item. But if you think about producing a mask and start to think about, well, the mask market seems to already be saturated. Why don't I think about the material then? That means the material, like you mentioned, like one of the pearl, a more breathable one, sustainable one, maybe some of the material that have like a really like a more better filter or whatsoever. The reason why it is the case more sustainable because this material can be applied elsewhere. And this material is not just limited to this mask. It can be applied to other products. And then from that, that means you will have something that can be expanded for more applications. Another thing is maybe because nowadays I kept seeing people wearing masks and I started to think about how do you dispose them? Because for example, in Hong Kong, already a lot of people found this disposed mask in the mountain, in the ocean, okay? So will there be something like, rather than focus on the mask, you focus on like how you dispose it. So from this like a thing, you possibly can have a lot of like more ideas coming out, and they may attach to these one core things that you are thinking of, but then also adding to your value. For example, if you develop a mask that like it has less impact on the environment when it's been disposed, possibly it will be more welcome. So these are the things like you possibly should think about as well. But I want to emphasize, I talk about extension of the core value, but if you remember that RAIN is still focused on the core value. It doesn't mean that the extension you have to include more functions. Okay, and more functions also doesn't mean that like more perceived value by your target customer, because value does not necessarily like equal to functions. When you think about your mobile phone, right? There are a lot of functions about it, but think about how many do you use? Possibly just 1/10 or maybe 20%. A lot of the functions, yes, it's good to have, but you really don't need them. Okay. Also, the reason is why you need to remember that, because more functions also means more complexity, and in the business and management term, more cost. It's more costly. So this, it is a trade-off. Okay, how you balance like to differentiate yourself by producing more value, and then like not really just keep adding useless or meaningless functions. So far, is there any questions? I hope that like I'm not talking too fast. Any questions? Any questions? No?
Also regarding some other projects that you are developing, so not only those related to face masks, but think about, you know, methods for diagnosis.
Yes, I think so too. Is it Camelo who is talking about this? Yeah, this is not just applied to face mask, it is the concept, you know. That means no matter whether you are producing the testing kit, I saw someone presenting it on the Facebook, or like this wearable device, it is really important for you to think about how do you sustain it beyond COVID-19. I know the topic is about COVID-19, okay? How will you be able to sustain this market value or demand beyond COVID-19? Because like you don't just want to produce something for maybe for one period, very short period, and immediately after that, you know that the demand will not be very high and you really cannot extract market value out of it. Okay, let me continue. No. So it's now about the market, because I keep emphasizing it. I don't know, any of you have thought about already, so you're producing something. What is your market, or how does your market, target market, look like? So I read some of these like description on Facebook page about, okay, how many customers that product may have, potential customer. But when I'm talking about the market, there are a few aspects that you need to consider. For example, I say that all the opportunities is about a gap, a need, and a problem. But the problem is not all needs will become an opportunity or a viable opportunity. So if you know that there is a need and you emphasize that, for example, now obviously there's a need for face mask, but is there a real need for this particular product? And how do you know that? Because you need to develop your product features. You need to know what is the real need of the people you are designing your product for. You cannot just because we academics always just sit at our desk like a dream of something, but for a product to have market value, you need to know whether this real need exists. Okay, and how do you know? Do you actually engage your users? Have you really talked to someone who may be your target customer? They have a real need. Let me tell you a story. Recently, I have been designing this, involving in a project designing the not vertical device, a renewable power energy solution for a rural area in Bangladesh with engineers. Okay, so engineers, our team was so proud of that solution. And one of the emphasis right at the start was, it could produce or it could generate 24 hours power. And at that time, I already had a doubt. Anyone need 24 hours in a rural village in Bangladesh? Okay, so from a business and management perspective, I went to do a user survey. It turned out that actually no one sees it as a problem without 24 hours power. So they think that it is something that people need, maybe possibly from a development perspective, but in a rural area in Bangladesh, possibly it is not a real need for those you target. So what I mean by you know who you are designing for, your target, they really have that need that you expect or dreamed of, okay? And in order to sustain, what is the scale of this need? Is this need, will this need grow, or is it going to shrink? Like I say is, okay, COVID-19 creates a lot of opportunity, but what about after COVID-19, will that need you address with your product continues to grow, or it will just shrink because there's no need anymore? Okay, is the timing right, and how long will it last? It's kind of built on the previous one. Okay, if it will not last, the need by the time you finish prototyping, by the time you finish everything, that need has gone because the window of opportunity just opens and closes. Okay, it will not wait for you, and it may not last long. So how long will it last? And then finally, who will be affected and the interest in your product. And when you talk about market, I keep saying, okay, you need to consider that because it is not just at this moment the market you address, it is for sustainability. You need to think about the future trends. COVID-19, yes, it is here, and maybe it will be here from the next 2 or 3 months or maybe half a year. But what about after half a year? So how are you able to sustain the product you are designing? Okay. So when you talk about market, okay, so I say that you need to know who is being affected and who will be interested. A lot of time when we're designing product, we only think about who is the end user because obviously we design a product to try to deliver some value and also benefit for our user. That's correct. That is the most important thinking, okay? But from a market value and also viability perspective to make it sustainable, sometimes it may not be just the user that you need to take into consideration. In the purchase decision-making process, okay, why someone will use that particular product or why someone will buy that particular product, at least there are 3 groups of people that you need to think about. Who use it? Yes, okay, for example, medical device, the patients, okay, always about patients. They are the one who will be benefit, they are the beneficiary, main beneficiary. But then they may not be the one who will buy those products. Okay, so who are your customer? The one who really purchase your product. And those customer or purchase, the one who purchase may actually not the one who pay. So I think that is typical in medical device for maybe some of these clinics and also hospital, right? So the one who buy them may be the procurement, okay, department, and then some of these like departments. But then the one who pay, obviously, like if it is private, then like maybe the management, and then or the company invested in those clinics. And then for the public one, obviously is the official responsible for that. So you can see that in that like a buying decision, if you only look at the patient and then you only look at the criteria, it may not really help because like it is the one who actually buy or the one who actually paid will consider. That means they have maybe a different set of like a consideration. And I use the drug I'm using now, it is hay fever, because here in Glasgow, okay, I recently have hay fever. That means I'm a patient, I'm definitely the user of these hay fever drugs, okay? If I can go to NHS, that means our centralized like a health system, to get one for free. So if the prescription and the hay fever drugs they prescribe me will be free, that means I don't have to pay anything. But then like I decided to buy this one, which is kind of, to me, even quite expensive as well. Because I know that in NHS, the health system here, and they will not, the buyer in those NHS system will definitely consider this one because it's so expensive, okay? So if your medical device is like, okay, the patient, you also need to balance the concern of those customer and purchaser. Even from a patient point of view, this drug is better for me than the other one they prescribe because those normally don't work. And then this works, okay? But then from their point of view, in addition to whether working better or less for the patient, there is other concern. For example, maybe those like companies have a long-term contract with them already, like the cost concern, of course, and then how easy they will be able to get the drug, like the sustainability of the supply chain, blah, blah, blah. So these are all the concerns they will take into consideration. And if you are only looking at the patient point of view, and your target customer have other concern, then like you may not be able to capture again that market value because you will not be able to realize it and then to attract the one that really pay for your product, okay? So that is like something you need to consider as well. I think particularly applicable to medical devices. And the other 2 groups, like who is the affiliated, like I say, you need to consider about, okay, how you can distribute it, and then the supplying of the material, making it, and your partner. And then like who you are competing with. It is like quite funny because even when I am teaching my students, they always think that they have such a unique product, they don't have competitor at all. That is not right, okay? If you think that you have no competitor, you are not like considering enough. And you possibly are just looking at your product instead of what I just mentioned, the value it creates. When we are talking about it, we create, so the mobile phone may serve the value of communication. Even the mobile phone serving that value has a competitor. I can just write a letter, right? I don't even need to, because the core value is communication. So this, like every product has a competitor. And also that's why I also mentioned about it's not just direct competitor. You also need to consider your substitute as well. So for example, if you have a test kit that use like a different method to do a test, obviously you have a lot of competitor, because like, okay, you may, for example, today I read like a BBC News about their test. They are using like now a testing kit for saliva, which is like a different from the previous one. Says that it is like a less intrusive and then easier. But even that, you are competing with these or other ways of testing. Okay, so there's like a substitute or like a competitor. So this you also need to consider, because they directly influence your capturing of the market for your product. And finally, there is like a who influence the third-party influencer. Like aside from it, the one thing about medical device for this one obviously is the regulator. I think that you may have already some lecture on the regulator, right? And also the one who's making the standard. And then for personal device, obviously some of these like, you know, those now internet influencer, either maybe they are just like end user or they have so many followers, they even wouldn't work from them. A lot of people will buy. And then like a medical device, obviously the professional and experts as well. Those people you will also need to engage, because they have the power to influence the purchase decision. Okay, so these are the makeup of the market. Think beyond just who are your user and who are your customer, because they may be the one that have like a huge influence on whether your product idea will work or whether your product idea will be able to sustain. So for all this group, you need to think about how do they look like? Who are they? First of all, identify who are my competitor. Are they just also like individual companies? Are they big companies? If they're big companies, how can I compete with them? Okay. What do they need? Like I say, different like a customer, I use the example of my hay fever drug, right? The customer and the end user, the need will be different. And what do they value? The choices they make, the criteria they use to select your product will also different. And how do they make this decision or act or behave? You need to have a really clear understanding of how this market works, and then put all these puzzles together. So this is like an example, okay? It is a GE, I don't know, maybe most of you have like, that means like read something about it. It is produced by General Electric. It is a portable electrocardiogram. So it is, I don't know, electrocardiogram. The one on the left is like an earlier version. It is from 400, okay, version 400, which was specifically designed for rural India, to now like 600. And the right one is the one that is actually available in the UK. The only difference is obviously the one on the right side is more expensive because it has a little bit more features and it can connect to the internet, blah, blah, blah. But for those like in the rural areas, you don't really need to connect to the maybe the internet. They have like maybe a card slot, it says, to record it or to record all those data. So for this product, who should you target? Is it the patient? For example, the rural, is it the patient that you should target, or actually someone else? Think about it, okay? Whose value you should think of when you're designing this product. In addition to that, who should you engage in order to make this product come into the market, attract the attention, and also be able to like capture some of the value? Okay, so think about it, because obviously for the product for rural area, yes, you still need to think about the patient, what they need. But it is not the patient who buy the product, it is actually the doctors. And sometimes may not even be the doctors, maybe the clinics they work in, or maybe the government or some of these NGO that engaged in this kind of healthcare services. So what are their needs? What do they concern about? When you design this product, you need to take that into consideration. So that is the end of my, so like I say, because of the time constraint, I'm not able to cover everything, but then I just trying to pinpoint something that I see in a lot of the students and also the engineers I work with, like some of the blind spots when they're designing the product idea. So the key takeaway is, why it's called Beyond Winning Idea? Because a good business and technological idea does not naturally turn into an opportunity that produces market value or that is sustainable. And determination of a viable opportunities involve the product. Don't look just at the physical product. Think more about what is the value and extended value it creates and can be delivered. Okay, the market, is there a real need? How long will that need be? Is it worth addressing? That means large enough or long enough for you to address it. The resources, are those resources making your product or like assessing the market available and accessible? And the team, finally, okay, the student group, is it a good fit? Why I use this picture? Because it's a puzzle and everything needs to fit together. It is not standalone. You need to think about it in a holistic way. So even the team, is it a good fit? Sometimes like it is not because the team does not have the skills and knowledge. It's just not a good fit. And then in addition to skills and knowledge, is it a good fit with your temperament and attitude? Okay, so these are the things I want, like hopefully I will bring some insight into it. And then you will also take some of them into consideration when you are designing your product. I have asked like Camelo to put a 2-minute test in the folder and talking about assessing your opportunity. And that kind of provide a checklist for you to tick to see whether you match some of these like important criteria to really translate an idea into a viable opportunity. I believe like all of you will be able to access the folder. And finally, yes, if you have any question, yes?
I mean, all of them can access to the folder.
Yes, so I have that 2-minute test, and then you, if you have time, you can think about your product in more depth, think about the market, and then like just 2 minutes. And thank you very much for attending. And if you have any questions, like you can contact me using this email. Okay. So any questions?
I just briefly add before there is Jennifer or Jumoke who opened the microphone. Just to telling you that this part about identifying who are your stakeholders in creating a viable business is really part of our project development. We have a specific section on UBORA in work package number 5 that invite you to open and check the questions together with this presentation. Right. So you can make comparison, you can like take some of the advice and include this in your final product.
Where is this UBORA chat room? UBORA
means excellence in
okay, in Italian.
It's Swahili.
Oh, Swahili, okay.
So, any questions from the audience?
So, but, like I say, if you have any question, you're welcome to email. Okay, yeah. So thank you very much, Camelo.
Let me applause you. So I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully hopefully it makes sense and some insight.
So let me stop the recording. Let me stop recording.